Plug in, turn it up, and rock and roll.
Trying for the stunner, a rock and roll dance is up in time!
A rock and roll dance, power, toughness, and chart-topping speed.
A rock and roll dance is going to win it! 148-1 in the Meadowlands Stage.
A rock and roll dance, now standing at Diamond Creek Farm.
Hi, I'm Matt Rose in the DRF Harness Studios to talk about what else? Harness racing. For those of you wondering where Derek Givner is, he's on some sort of assignment down south, avoiding the snow and the sleet and everything else we have here. I think we'll be cheering on some of the Horse of the Year candidates this weekend. But I'm here solo, thankfully for me and probably thankfully for some of our viewers. And I'm going to talk about Yonkers Raceway because although there's no stakes races, we do have the Levy and the Matchmaker, the two big races, two big series, starting sooner than you think next month. Anyone who follows harness racing, Yonkers Racer, half-mile harness racing is familiar with the Matchmaker and the Levy. Long endurance series, 5 preliminaries, 5 weeks in a row, and a very lucrative finals for both of them. And you'll see on Friday and Saturday we have some of the contenders that are in to go. I'll just briefly touch on the mares. Friday there's an open handicap for fillies and mares, 44 grand. See a couple of interesting horses in here. She's a GMP for Peter Tritton, who does great with these imports. Better Be Chevron N for Lance Hudson. Hit a little bit of a road bump. Didn't really fire with her best last week, but anyone who saw her first few starts were just awesome. You notice Stratton chose the horse over the Tritton horse, which is kind of interesting. So that's on Friday night. Also Mock It a Par, Itty Bitty. There's some other Monica Gallagher, some other contenders in there. But I'll focus more on Saturday. The feature race on Saturday for Pacers is an open draw open for Pacers this week, which is carded as race 8. As of now, we do not have the morning line odds or the final drivers, but it's safe to say the only double listing is Jason Bartlett, and he's got a Richard Banker horse with a 7 Bells Binge, and Better Memories, the 60s listed on Better Memories, probably the better option right now. Much more accomplished horse, tuning up for what should be a big season, because he had a big season last year, almost 200 grand in the bank. But what we're going to focus in on are the two inside horses, Don Domingo N and Bit of a Legend N. Bit of a Legend, former Levy champ, needs no introduction. Had his quote tightener race, you could say, last week in the open handicap. And Don Domingo's kind of new on the scene, started out winning a Monticello, blew through the condition ranks, a flying third in the preferred last week, and George Brennan picked up the drive last week with Jordan Stratton opting a Bit of a Legend. And as we can watch in a replay clip from last week's open handicap, you'll see as we pick it up at the half, Better's Fire for Ron Cushing has been super. What's interesting to note is the 28-2, 58-3 early splits, which is just a prehistoric pace for today's open. And you see someone in LA who also is making his first start, also an accomplished Levy contender, forced to come at it alone because Bit of a Legend decided to sit in a 3-hole. And you see Jordan Stratton just sitting third on the rail with the 3-horse with his hands in his lap. Chose to sit in. Never really had a chance here. Some people could say it's bad to see in the first start. Other people could say, you know what, it's a great tightener. We see someone in LA hold on pretty well in between horses, and Bit of a Legend has nowhere to go as Don Domingo launches off cover and was not only a good winner, but a fortunate winner because he was able to be second over instead of third over with Bit of a Legend sitting in. Now, with an open draw, we see Don Domingo from the rail and Bit of a Legend from the 2-hole. Those two will undoubtedly take a bulk of the wagering activity here. I imagine Don Domingo will be favored. George Brennan gets the return drive. Listen, he's been absolutely super, and the board talk last week at the 9-5 was able to pick up a perfect second over trip because someone in LA carried him to the lane, and ran over Better's Fire, who had it all his own way, battled stubbornly, but couldn't get the job done. Now with the open draw, you see these two horses in the 1 and the 2 post. Better's Fire now maybe on the outside looking in from the 4 post, but he does have a solid early speed. It'll be interesting to see what Ron Cushing does. Better Memories making his second start, like I mentioned, of the year. Should have plenty to offer, but this is a tough spot. He's going to have to try to find some sort of live cover, which may or may not be found in this race. But I have to go to a bit of a legend here. I liked what I saw last week. I'm surprised, but not surprised that he sat in off that slow pace. Would have been nice to see him take a shot first over. That left someone LA first over to rough it. He ran very well. We don't see him in this race. We see him in a high condition race later on the card. But you know what? I think maybe Don Domingo gets overbet here. Everyone sees that race last week, and did the dynamics change? Does he cut the mile this week? It's interesting. I don't think he wants to sit a pocket trip. I don't think he wants to be grinding. I think he's be cutting the mile, and that's a dynamic that he has not done yet. And sometimes maybe they come up a little short on the front end when they've been following a helmet or following cover. I'm going to go with a bit of a legend. I think this is the week to kind of stretch his legs out, air him out, whether he can grind or brush to the lead. Maybe get a slightly better price than Don Domingo. Definitely get a better price than Bettor's Fire, but I got to lead to a bit of a legend. That was a perfect, quote, tightener last week. And the 10-year-old should be ready to roll, and I'd love to see him perform, have another great showing in the Levy Series. So that's a quick look at the Yonkers Raceway, the 8th race open, with a bunch of Levy contenders, and like I said on Friday, matchmaker contenders. Derek and I will be back next week. I'm sure anyone that misses Derek, drop him a line, call him, email him. I can throw out his cell phone number if anyone wants. We'll be back next week to talk about some more harness racing. Till then, enjoy the upper class action in Yonkers. We'll see you next week. Thanks.